And schools are making plans to send students online if a strike by education workers goes ahead on Monday.
CUPE issued a 5-day strike notice yesterday as the union and province are still in disagreement, it appears, over staffing levels. From what we can understand, the two sides appear to have come to terms on a 3.59% wage increase each year over 4 years. That was a major sticking point and caused the previous walkout less than 2 weeks ago. That strike lasted only 2 days after the Ford government promised to repeal legislation that would have forced a contract on the workers and also bar them from striking.
Most school boards are closing their doors to in-person learning if CUPE goes ahead with a strike on Monday. The Toronto District School Board and the Toronto Catholic Board say students will take part in live synchronous learning. Peel students will also participate in synchronous learning next week. And then York Region is asking students to take home their belongings, and teachers will communicate the learning plan a little later. We will post a full list of school board plans on our website, cp24.com. So for more on all of this, we are joined once again by Ontario's Education Minister Stephen Lecce. Good morning, Minister. Let's get into it. So we know that there seems to be a slight consensus on the wages, which was the main sticking point last time. This time it seems to be reinvestment in, staffing levels. We spoke to Fred Hahn this morning, president of CUPE Ontario, and he said that it was news to him what you were saying in the media about hiring 1,800 new staff per year. And he also reiterated that that wouldn't be enough to cover the 4,800 schools in the province. What's your response to that?
Well, good morning, and it's good to be back. Look, I think what I can say is that the union said that the legislation had to be repealed for the strikes to be off the table. On Monday, the government fulfilled our commitment and withdrew the bill in its entirety. And 2 days later, families are being notified of a 5-day strike notice that will impose hardship on 2 million kids. I think that is unfair. I don't think it demonstrates the best interest of kids. They've been through a lot and they deserve to be in class. And that's the message we're sending to all the parties at the table, notably to the union, to not leave the table, to work with us so we can get a deal that keeps the kids in class. What I can also note is that I think pay remains the fundamental fault line here. Up until 2 days ago, it was all about pay. It was only about pay. I've only been asked about pay in every interview done by design because that was the issue. The president of the union wanted a significant increase in wages, and we delivered that $335 million increase just from last week, fulfilling the obligation we made to the people of Ontario, increasing the pay for the lowest paid workers. We took the bill off the table. We offered a flat rate, and we're protecting the best pensions and benefits and sick leave. And we also committed, part of our program, to your question, to hire 1,800 workers, education workers, part of our plan. If we don't make that commitment, we wouldn't see the renewal of these critical staff within our schools. And so we're committing part of our plan to fund those staff of 1,800 education workers, roughly 1,000 more teachers. That's been part of our proposal from day one to ensure we have high staffing levels. Because keep in mind, this government hired roughly 7,000 more education workers since we came to office in 2018. And I think that underscores a real commitment to public education. It's why this September we added $680 million more of public funding for our schools. We want to get the kids on track and we want to get them support their catch up, but it all starts with them being in school. And that's why I think we're very disappointed by the decision of the union to proceed with the strike again, only a few weeks after the last one.
The dynamic is interesting here, Minister, because, traditionally, typically, it's governments and administrators who sort of set the standards for what goes on in classrooms. But it appears that CUPE seems to be not only driving the sort of push for more wages, which is a more traditional union position, but also push for how schools are kind of run and administered, certainly on the sort of CUPE education worker side of things here. Is that how the system is set up to work typically? I mean, who generally calls the shots on staffing and numbers like that?
Well, I mean, obviously governments will have to make decisions on that. It's a conversation with all the parties. And I think we've been at the table from day one, committing ourselves to our end of the bargain, which was repeal the bill. And the union said they wouldn't strike. And yet they're back to strikes in about 4 days. We said we would increase the wages. We obviously, as you know, 2 Sundays ago, we unilaterally increased the option. But then the Premier made a commitment, we made a commitment, we would do even more and even better for the lowest paid. We did that, adding over $330 million of additional funding for CUPE workers alone. And so we have materially fulfilled the commitments we made to get this right, to keep the kids in school, to prioritize their needs, their mental and physical health. I've spoken to parents over the past days who talked to me about the regression they're seeing in their kids in basic literacy skills and social skills and in development. And I just think it is, honestly, we should not normalize strikes on children. These have real impacts, especially on the most vulnerable, especially on kids with special education, mental health needs. And I just really hope that over the coming days, the union will acknowledge to take yes for an answer, that to accept a deal that is materially good for their workers, but most importantly, is good for our kids. And I really want the emphasis to be on children, because to date it has been pretty much exclusively been about desire for higher wages. Remember, 2 Sundays ago, folks, they committed to a strike on the basis of not getting an 11.7% increase in pay every single year, a nearly 50% increase in comp. That is their record. We knew what they were fighting for just 14 days ago, but we also know that we have a role to play as the government, and we're going to stay at the table. We're going to work with this mediator, and we hope that CUPE, so that we can get a deal and put this behind us, provide some stability finally for children in the province.
Okay, and Minister, before we let you go, can you tell us where the talks are today? Where do they stand?
Yeah, so we're going to be before the mediator. We would never left the table, as you know, but we are standing ready to work with Mr. Kaplan and the union. We really hope that those discussions will carry forward today and over the coming days. We expect there to be conversations. Ultimately, notwithstanding the strike notice, we can still have productive conversations at the table, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm just trying to signal to the union that, we've got a good proposal before you. We did everything asked of the government. And I really now think there's a reciprocal obligation on the union to say, look, we've achieved, particularly on salaries or staffing, maintaining the best pensions and benefits and sick leave programs in the nation when you compare it to all the provinces. And just to accept that this program is good. It is favorable to kids. It's going to improve their learning. It's going to respect our staff. So let's get a deal. Let's honestly do this. Let's put the interests of children first. And I think all parties win when kids are in class.
Yeah, a lot of people holding their breath, hoping a deal does come before Monday. That's for sure. Education Minister Stephen Lecce live on CP24 Breakfast. Appreciate the time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.